when you don't deal with certain things, you don't deal with certain fears, when you don't believe in yourself, when you don't believe in your abilities. And let me tell you, we are some of the smartest people in the room. But that self belief, if we don't have it, we're never gonna raise our hands. We won't voice our opinions because we are afraid of being shut down.
Hey, 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 journeyers. Welcome to the Journey to Launch podcast. I'm really excited to be speaking to today's guest. Her name is Judy McCutcheon. She is a vibrant and passionate advocate for Caribbean leadership, deeply rooted in her love for the region. Born in Trinidad and Tobago, and she had a short stint in Belize, it looks like, and now residing in Grenada. Okay, living all across the Caribbean. I love that. You really have diverse interactions and a background with citizens from across the region. And so you can appreciate, and she appreciates the characteristics that make us all unique. And she has dedicated her career in supporting Caribbean development through human resources. She is a human resource expert. She has really forged a path within the space. She has a conference that she's going to talk about later, a disruptive leadership conference, and so many things that I can't wait to get into. So welcome to the podcast, Judy.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm excited to be here, Jamila. Thank you.
So, Judy, just I want to kind of go back a little bit because as I read, kind of in the introduction, I it was a summary of like where you were born, all the places you lived. I jumped over a lot, and I know you are, someone who has lived life. So I want to go back a bit because my audience, who I call journeyers, they are on the path to wanting to achieve financial independence and living their best lives, whatever that looks like for them. And we all have different starting points and different advantages, disadvantages that help us or that we need to work through. So I want to kind of go back to your origin story of how you started and how and we can go through the points of what eventually led you to where you are today. So can we kind of go back to your beginnings in Trinidad and Tobago?
Yes, certainly we can. So I I grew up in the smaller of the two islands, which is Tobago. So I grew up in a little village. We had like about maybe less than 500 people in that village. A single mother, um, 8 out of 10. And just this past weekend, I was talking to my mom, and she was telling me that when she was working when we were growing up, she worked for $3.45 a month. And so that is what she had to use to raise us. So I didn't grow up, well, I didn't think that I was poor. What I felt is that we didn't have material stuff, but I didn't feel that we were poor. But one of the things that was really um, hitting for me is it was food, and I'm saying food because I want to tell you a story about that. And so food was always an issue. I mean, like all these children, 345 a month, single parent. So there were days when we had no food. There were days when, we came home from school, eat some mango, went back to school, that kind of thing. And I remember as a young adult, I moved to Trinidad and I started working. And when I started working, I remember I used to go into the supermarket because now I can afford to do things. I go into the supermarket and I would go to every single aisle and buy stuff. My cart was always overloaded with stuff. Um, and stuff that I wanted or not, because it was that um scarcity and lack feeling from not having. And so that was one of the things that I did to try and fill that void kind of thing. um I didn't, my mom couldn't pay for university, but I eventually put myself through university. I was the first one, I'm the first one in my family to have a university degree. And that's the next thing is that what my mom always used to say is, education is your way out of poverty. And I really educated myself. And sometimes I think that we go overboard because I don't know, about four different things. And I'm signed up to do my PhD and decided, nah, I'm not going to do that. But so from there, putting myself through school, in between in between those times, it was really rough. I really have to tell you, it was rough. It was, I say that I was on a path to moral self-destruction
Mm.
because you grew up one way, and it you are in a particular mindset. You think a particular way about yourself. And so when good things start happening to you, you sabotage it, because not because you intentionally want to sabotage it, but simply because you have that feeling inside that this can't be real, this is not for me. And so I've had a real journey of struggle with myself, with crazy partying, crazy drinking. I mean, just doing a bunch of crazy stuff. But I think it was a searching kind of thing, because I went to church, I stopped, I did so many different things trying to find who I am in everything that was happening to me. So from then, I lived in Trinidad for a while, and then I moved to Belize. I got married. So, well, my first marriage. So let me tell you, I got married twice. So this is my second marriage. So by my first marriage, I met this guy, and I think we were on the same self-destructive path, and I think we bonded based on our traumas. And so he fed something in me, I fed something in him. And so we had that relationship, and we lived together without we weren't married at first, and then we got married. Pressure, everybody, you're living together, da da da. So we got married. But the funny thing is, and I want women and men to pay attention to this: when your intuition tells you something, listen. Because my intuition had said to, because I remember saying, I don't want to get married again. And I remember him saying to me, well, we already sent out the invitation. And so he cannot convince me to go along with it. But would you know, when I got to the church, I was later than no bride, but when I got to the church, the priest had left.
Oh, that's how late you were.
No,
Hmm.
I wasn't
Wait.
late. I wasn't later than any other bride. I wasn't, I
Mm.
really wasn't. I may have probably been um maybe 20 minutes, 30
Okay, I see.
minutes late, right? And so the priest had gone. And I think when I look back, I'm thinking like, this was the universe, this was God saying no. But no, I still went ahead, got married, and of course, I'm on my second marriage, so we know how that ended. But all of that is simply because I didn't see myself, like I truly didn't see me. I didn't think that all these good things, this good job, making this amount of money, I didn't think that I was worthy of it. So I did all this stuff that to kind of just throw it away.
So it sounds like a bit of self sabotage, which
Plenty of it,
so
a lot
much,
of it like that.
yeah. So much of who we are today as adults, mostly, the adults are listening to this, like who we are shaped by so many things in our past, even, all the decisions that we make, the opportunities we
Mhm.
see or don't see, the self-sabotage, the way we handle money. You talked about finally getting money and then, wanting to spend it because now you have the liberty to spend the money that you didn't have before. So going a bit overboard. And I know so many people can relate to that
Mhm.
mindset and working through that, but recognizing it. So just what age were you around this time, like when you got married, and what was your career? What were you doing to make money for yourself at that point?
Um, when I think I was like 25 when I got married,
Okay.
and I was working with a consulting firm. The lady who owned the firm, it was a US franchise, and I'd met her when I was like about 20, and she took me under her wings and really taught me a lot. So I worked with her as one of her consultants, and I traveled a lot. That job, I traveled plenty for that job, and so I got to see new things. And when you travel as a consultant, you obviously make more money, and I was senior, so I was making pretty good money. No kids, nothing, so I was just making my money. um, I always wore the best clothes. I went to the hairdresser. Like the hairdresser would comb my hair every morning for me to go to work. That is how, that's how extra it was. But it's certainly always finding a way to get rid of the money based on our mindset and based on our belief system. The things that we believe about money will dictate what we do with that money. And so if we grow up in a household where there is always some kind of contention around money, we tend to not want to hold on to money. When we talk about money being evil, when we talk about rich people being evil, when we look at and we say rich people had to take advantage of the poor people to get rich. So when we have that particular type of mindset, we tend to really just we get the money, but we don't keep the money. We find a way to get rid of the money. And that's at every single level, every level. The person who make 500,000 a year to the ones who make 30,000 a year.
And it's so important to be self-reflective and to sit and to do that work, that inner work, to even just acknowledge if that's what's happening for you and why you're doing the things. I think the biggest inquiry and progress you want to see externally is that inner, like, why, I have a problem with discipline, but it's not because I can't do it. It's because there are these things within me that are guiding or clouding, the glasses I have on when I look at and I view the world, and my money caused me to do these things. So you're taking responsibility, but you are acknowledging perhaps why you're doing some of the things you're doing, or you're trying to figure that out is such a big step. So
Yeah.
talk about you now. You're making a lot of money, and are you living in Trinidad or Belize at this point as
Right.
a
So,
consultant?
yeah, I was live as a consultant, I was living in Trinidad. Um and I didn't really start to become self-aware.
Mm.
The thing is that we use something external like buying shoes and clothes. I love shoes. Buying shoes and clothes to fill an internal void. So I really didn't start to become self-aware. And then I divorced and so on, and then I got married again and moved to Belize. um and this time I was still making a lot of money, but this time, I didn't have to worry about bills being paid, and so my money was really just my money. And so again, I wasn't thinking along the lines of saving, investing. I wasn't thinking along those lines. I was just thinking along the lines of spending and getting more and getting more and getting more. But I'll tell you what though, when I have two girls, and kind of my kids kind of change a little bit of things for me. Um, it really, really did. But it wasn't until I got really sick in 2010. And so that kind of put a little bit not a little bit, but it put things into perspective for me. And I really started my reflection around that time. I really started thinking about me. Um, why am I here? What am I doing with myself? Because when it's time for us to get to that point, we begin to get very restless on the inside. And some people call the feeling stuck, but it's not stuck. It's just, you're just restless. Your soul knows that there is just so much more for you. And the bigger you wants to express itself, right? And so I started feeling like that, really not knowing what to do, where to turn. And by that time now we'd moved to Grenada. And so I was unemployed because we moved to Grenada just as the um, 2010, just, the height of the financial crisis. And so there was no work here. This, of course, obviously, this is a small island. And so there was no work. And so I thought, what am I going to do? So I did another degree because, like, what else am I going to do? I did another degree, but I still felt restless. And so one day I was on the internet and I was just reading and I came upon The Secret, that book. And I went onto Amazon and I bought the book, I bought the journal, I bought the CD, I bought the whole thing. And that started my journey of self reflection and awareness. I really had to do some deep, serious work around my belief system, not just around money, but my belief system around myself in general. How did I see me? What did I think about me? What are the things that I'm telling myself about me? Um, it was dark. It was dark. And I know for sure why a lot of people don't do this inner work, because it is not easy work. It is hard work. But at the end of it, it really is beautiful. Let me just jump back a little bit. When I
Mm-hmm.
lived in Belize, right, I worked for an insurance company. So first I worked as a financial accountant, and then I started working in insurance. And as an insurance advisor, I have seen some of the, I mean, I've really seen some stuff. And so I had a friend who took some insurance with me, and then she called and canceled it. I said, all right, no problem. And then her husband got sick and died. And he had some insurance, but his insurance had lapsed. And but the good thing about that is that he kept paying and the company kept taking his money. And so when he died, they had said to her, well, the only thing I could do is give you back what he had paid. And I said, no, that that's not fair. Um, the fact that he kept paying meant that he had an expectation. right? And I really fought for it, and she got it. And what I realized that without that safety net, she and her daughter would have been out, you know? And so it really changed my mind a lot around insurance, the use of insurance, and why we need insurance. Because for us, and I'm talking specifically now about people that look like me, we don't believe in insurance. You talk to somebody who look like me and they will tell you insurance is a scam and this and that and the other. Because and they always have somebody else's story to tell you about this person who whatever. But it is an essential part, sorry, of our wealth building process. It really is an essential part of that. And working in insurance really made me see that. And so when I moved to Grenada and there was nothing to do, I really started getting more and more into finances. I did couple finance courses. Um, I became a financial educational instructor. I did a behavioral finance course at Duke University, because I really wanted to really help people realize that yes, you can make money. Yes, you can keep spending. Yes, you can save. But let us look at how we can build true wealth.
Right. It's not about just earning money and having it cycle out of your household, but how do you preserve wealth? How do you build
Yes.
wealth? How do you have something so that your future self, and this does not have to be so many decades later, but even just next year and or 2 years, has like, you're thinking ahead, you're being proactive with your finances. Now, I want to, you talked about having this shift about what you felt about yourself after you got the secret and you started doing some the real work. And I think that's the second time in this story or in our conversation so far that you said you had to self-reflect. The first one time seemed like you got sick and it forced you to self-reflect. And the second time in this story so far is you moving to Grenada and kind of being so restless. And I feel like that feeling of restlessness or being sick in an external event, like there's these things that we can no longer ignore that happen to us,
Mm-hmm.
where most of us can like chug along and be uncomfortable for, and just ignore, push it to the side. It's almost like my closet upstairs. It's a hot mess. I'm going to keep pushing it to the side, just close the closet. I don't got to think about it. I can move on. But at some point, it's going to bother me enough or it's going to get unwieldy and out of control where I have to do something about it. And I think so for so many people, these events have to happen first before we make significant or the change we want to see. But what
Mm-hmm.
did you begin to change about yourself and think? How did you start to think differently so that put you on the path to the next step that you took that maybe put you where you are today? So what was that switch from I thought about this, I did this versus now I think like this and I do this?
Right. So it started with The Secret. But what really helped me through is within The Secret. And if people really read it, she gave other resources. And one of the resources in that book is a book called The Master Key System. And the Master Key System was written in like 1939 or 1930 or something like that. And it's 24 lessons that really talks about your thought process, and how your thoughts create your reality. And that really resonated with me because, if I were to look at my life at that time, I would think the life I had then and the thoughts that I had, they were in perfect sync with each other. And so that really resonated with me. And so I did those lessons. And it's amazing. One of the lessons was I had to sit down and just watch the thoughts, not interact with my thoughts, not do anything with it. And I think like, what am I supposed to do? Like, how do I not interact? First of all, I was thinking like, what do you mean interact with my thoughts? I don't know. I don't interact with my thoughts, but we do. And it was amazing sitting there for 30 minutes and noticing the things that I was thinking, the things that I thought about myself. Um, I couldn't do thing like I couldn't stand in the mirror and say I love you because I really didn't. You know, I found every single fault with myself. Every single thing was wrong with me. Everything. I was fat. I was short. I was ugly. I mean, every single thing was wrong with me. And that is because deep within, I really had zero love for myself. But one of the things in all my reflection, one of the things I remember is that when I was growing up, right, I've never heard anybody say to me, I love you. Ever, 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 ever. And so that was just like a foreign concept. You get married, you think you love the person, but you really don't, because do you really know what love is? Like, do you truly, truly know? Because if you don't love you, and this, I have come to this conclusion, and I don't think there's anything right now that could change my mind. If I don't love me, I do not have the capacity to love you. I have to love me first. I have to see me first before I could truly see you. And so that book really helped me. And then I hired a coach, and that coach took me up to a point. And then I did a next degree, but this time I did a degree in psychology, because by this time I'm realizing, okay, I really do need to get into this whole people thing to understand, because now I'm getting excited about people and why people think and behave the way they do, and is there something that I can do to help? And so I did a degree in psychology, and then I did some trauma informed coaching. I became certified. And then, so the more I found out about myself, the more I started feeling really, really good about myself, the more I started loving who I am. There's nobody in this world right now who could tell me I'm not the prettiest person in the world. Just like nobody. I truly love me with everything that I have. I love me. But getting here, being able to stand in front of the mirror and say, I love you so much, has not been easy. Simply because I did not have an example when I was growing up. And then I had serious daddy issues. Oh, my daddy issues were a lot. Because my father, I know who my father was. He would come to the house, we would go to his house, but that was it. He was so unavailable. Like, now I know what it is. Right now I know that he was emotionally unavailable. And then as I talked more and more with one of my sisters, I was saying to her that I feel so sorry for my dad, because I could just imagine the things that he didn't have, and he wasn't able to reflect and become aware so that he could become better. And so I didn't speak to my father for like about 15 years. I was one angry chick. Oh, woo. I was a real, I was a terrible, I was angry, really angry. And so I didn't speak to my father for like about 15 years. And then a friend said to me one day, he said, Judy, like, how long are you going to carry this on for? how long are you going to just do this thing? I mean, like, don't you want to make some peace at some point with your dad? And I thought, well, maybe not. Maybe I can. I didn't even have his number. I had to call my sister. So I called my sister and I said, "Can I have daddy's number?" And I called him and we chatted. Some conversations you still don't have. And now I was in the particular place where I know that he is not in that particular place to have certain conversations. So I wasn't going to have those conversations because it will end nowhere. So we chatted, and then, when I would go back home, I would go and look for him. Go look for. Then he got
Mm-hmm.
sick, and then I would keep going to look for him until he passed. I mean, for me, I've had to do a lot of forgiving, plenty. I had to forgive myself. I had to forgive all the people that I thought, real or imagined, who, in some way or the other would have hurt me. And one of the things, and I'm going to bring this back to money and abundance, right? One of the things that really helps us in whether we looking to move up in our whatever we're looking to do in life, one of the things that I this is a belief that I have, is that we have to learn to let go. We cannot hold on to all the hurt, all the pain, all the hatred, and expect that abundance will find us. It will not.
I'm sitting here and loving this, like, this vulnerability, this talk, because it's there's so much of what you're saying that I can relate to also and see. And sometimes it's, when I tell people about, like, Journey to Launch and the platform and why I started this, and why what I want for other people is what they want for themselves too, is just to reach this idea of, like, having an abundant life, not only in, like, whatever that money looks like for you, but in your time and your energy, like having options and being happy with wherever you are and making things work for yourself, right? And then realizing that there's so much of that starts, like, from within, and starts from a place of our relationships with, whether it's our fathers, the lack of relationships,
Mhm.
our siblings, our mothers. Just, there's so many relationships and feelings. And, like, you talked about, never heard that someone loved you. And so it was hard to really understand what love was, and how on the surface someone could be like, well, what does that have to do with career and money and, like, living like a good life? And I think for some people, they can kind of power through and just put a band-aid on something and ignore it and kind of still make it. From the outside, it might look like they're doing well. Just like for you, like, you were still making money, you're still doing well.
Mhm.
There are people who I know who still manage to make it work. But that when you can really reach in and what I call, like, tethers, so, like, letting go of maybe the feelings and the hurt and pain, or accepting certain things about yourself and coming to terms with all the things you need to come to terms with, like,
Mhm.
you feel lighter, and you it's a difference in how you show up in the world. And it's not always, something that can be measured, but it's like just something in you. And then, I'm not saying that it happens all the time or right away, but things begin to happen more for you.
Mhm.
You begin to
Mhm.
show up differently. Your life begins to change.
Mhm.
You're able to have the confidence to raise your hand in that meeting, or to go ask for the raise, or you have an interest in something, like maybe getting a certificate outside of your job, to say, okay, maybe I can start this business on the side. But you have the confidence to try. And so there's all these intangible things that we need to do to make the tangible happen. And so I
Definitely.
love, like, this arc of your story, talking about you realizing this, because I know, and I do want you to share what happens next for you, and eventually you now creating the company and brand that you have, because none of that would have been possible without going through all of this, and to, the the personal things you got to do in your life to attain the success, whatever career wise or financially, that you have now?
Success, however it looks for you, is an inside job. It really is. Because it must come from the inside for you to realize it on the outside, right? And so when you look at I don't know, some of the richest people, they just simply believe in themselves, right? um and I'm not talking about the ones who were born into that. I'm talking about the ones who would have had to build it, right? They would have had to have done some inner work. There's just no way that they would have just got up one morning and say, "All right, I'm going to." Because it's a scary thing. It's a scary thing, and so it healing to really. I think healing is I want to say has been my nirvana. It really has helped me to push past, because when you don't deal with certain things, you don't deal with certain fears, when you don't believe in yourself, when you don't believe in your abilities. And let me tell you, we are some of the smartest people in the room, but that self-belief, if we don't have it, we're never gonna raise our hands. We won't voice our opinions because we are afraid of being shut down. So it's really about, to get from point A to D, there's B and C in between, and that B and C really is where you spend a lot of your time healing, becoming self aware. And I say to people, become curious about who you are. Just become curious about you. So, one of the things that I do a lot is, if I'm in traffic and somebody cut me off or do something and I get angry, I ask myself, why are you angry? Because that person really truly did not do you anything. But so what is the underlying reason for that anger or that anxiousness or whatever feeling that you're feeling? Become curious, and then you would realize that it's some of the things that you need to unravel, right? So we have to start to dismantle and unravel the some of our belief systems, the beliefs that we grew up with, that many of us have not questioned, right? When we talk about when we and I mean, like, if you grow up in the Caribbean, you grow up in church. Period. End of text. That's it. That's it. One church or the other, you grew up in church. And we have these beliefs and we never question them. And so we live our lives, I believe, limited in some ways because we don't question, is this really right? Our money beliefs are formed by the time we age 10, right? So if we keep that 10-year-old money beliefs and we're now 40, you see what's happening? So we need to start to question those beliefs. Why is this? Why do I think like this? Why do I do things like this? Is there a different way to do it? Is insurance really that bad? What can I do to create wealth in my family? What can I do so that my children can have a better life than I did? How can I help to create a legacy all the way down for my lineage? How can I do that? We don't question. A lot of us, we wake up, we go to work, we come back home, we do the same thing every day, every day, every day, every day. It becomes routine and monotonous. We don't really use our real thought capacity to affect our reality. And if a lot of us were to really think about the type of life that we want to create and really become curious and do some inner work. Some of us may have to go to therapy, some of us may have to have a coach. A lot of it I started doing myself because at that time I was unemployed. I started doing a lot of reading. I read a lot of books. I implemented some of the things in the book and realized, okay, this works. What more can I do? And so because what I implemented worked, I kept going further and further and further. And so, you get to the point where you feel, okay, what now? What is my purpose? How can I then now impact humanity? How can I do my part to help people? And so I was actually the general manager for a insurance company, excuse me. And I realized that our values were a little bit different, my values and theirs. And that's the next thing, right? I have boundaries. I have serious boundaries and values. I am guided by my values. And so that's the next thing that we need to understand, that you need to have boundaries. A lot of us, our boundaries are so porous that they're non existent. I have very serious boundaries. My values, I'm not compromising at all. And so when I realized that we were off, I came home on Friday night, 8 o'clock, and sent in my resignation. I'm like, I had no job. I had no more, I didn't have anything lined up. I just knew that this wouldn't work for me anymore. And then I thought, when I looked at the amount of growth I helped that company to achieve, I thought, I'm not going to work for anybody else. I'm not going to look for another job. I'm going to try to do my own thing. And so
Mm.
I formed the consulting company, had zero clients, zero. But every day I would get up and do work.
What was a consulting company doing? What was the
It's a
purpose
it's
of
a
it?
management consulting. I still have it, so we do a lot of strategic plans, a lot of training and development for organizations.
Okay, got it.
Um, so I would get up every day and I would write all these programs. I create my own courses. I had no client, zero. But I got up every day and I sat at my computer and I worked until I got my first client, right? And I kept going. And then I thought, what else can I do? Because I realized that learning and development in our region, it was just everybody doing the same thing over and over, and I'm thinking like, no, we could do we could do better, because I know that we're brilliant people. I know that we have brilliant people doing amazing things. How can we There's a gap. How can I bridge that gap? And so I attended a conference one May and I thought, this is ridiculous. Like, this is absolute this is how they see us. This is how they see it. This is ridiculous. And so the idea for the Disruptive Leadership Conference was born. And that was 2019. And within a couple months, I put that conference together, reach out to a couple people to facilitate. Like I say, um, we have amazing people. So the model I use CEOs, managing directors, CEOs as the facilitators. people who are doing amazing in their space and who we can learn from. So I wasn't looking for theorists, because if you're not a practitioner, you could only give me theory, right? I want to know that you've failed and what you've done to make it again. And so that's the model that we use. And I was, and the first one was right here in Grenada. It was well attended. I had people from Belize, Trinidad and Tobago, and Jamaica attending, as well as, of course, people from Grenada. And then when COVID hit, we went online. Last year we went to Trinidad, and well, this year we decided, to get people from across the region to come. Miami is an easier hub.
And so, and I'm going to have you just like talk a bit about who goes to your conference and if anyone's listening that wants to attend. But I want to bring up
Mm-hmm.
some points that kind of connect here. So you said you started to work without any clients, and so that's one,
Mm-hmm.
but you worked. But that work, you would not have done that work or kept going until you got a client if not for that belief in yourself. So that's where now it all comes back to the
Yes.
confidence, where that's
Mm-hmm.
what's so
Mm-hmm.
important, because and in my opinion, you can believe in yourself and still have doubts. You can believe in you can
Yeah, of
have
course.
self-doubt moments and lack confidence in certain areas, but still, no
Mm-hmm.
matter what, know that stuff it's going to work out for you. But that's why this inner work is so important, because without that, you wouldn't have sat at the computer to do any work, because you would have wanted to see the proof and the clients first before just
Mm-hmm.
believing in yourself, the thing you could control, and doing the work and then getting clients. And the same thing with the conference, having the just confidence to go to somewhere else and say, you know what, that they're not doing it the way I think it can be done. I think this can be done better, and I think I can do it. Like that to me, that boldness, that reclaiming of the power is like something anyone can do. It's what I did when I was listening to podcasts, reading blogs about people on their financial journey. And I said to myself, I could do what they're doing. I could do my own version that's better because it's coming from me and my
Mm-hmm.
voice. And so, and then
Mm-hmm.
it expanded to what it is now. And so I'm just encouraging you people listening, journeyers, that if there's an idea or thought, like, believe that you can also do it too. That belief though is the most important, because without that, you won't start. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yes. I want to talk though. I want you to be able to explain a little bit about the conference itself, like who should attend and when it's coming up, and where people can find more about it.
Okay, so the conference is going to be in Miami, and we're going to make Miami its home. Now, that's the next thing. Like, I don't know anybody in Miami. I don't know a soul in Miami, but I just know that I want people from across the region. I want Caribbean people who live in the diaspora to experience this. And so I just say, okay, let's do Miami. And so it's in March of 2025. It's March 12th to 14th, and it's going to be at the um, Sheraton Miami Airport Hotel and Executive Meeting Center. Our website is disruptiveleadershipconference.com, and all the information is on that website. We have corporate rates. We even have a bestie rate, so you and your best friend could come. Um, so we even have payment plans, because we're trying to make it as accommodating as, for as many people to come as possible.
And these are people who want to attend, who want to become leaders and learn how to navigate the corporate world.
Yes, yes, definitely. So it is for current as well as aspiring leaders, because leadership is dynamic. It's very dynamic. And so it changes. Every day there's something new happening from the leadership space. And if we were to look like this next year's conference, the theme is the future of leadership: opportunities, risk, rewards. What are the opportunities that will happen in the future? What are the risks that we can look at? And what are the rewards that we can hope to reap from doing leadership differently? We have to think outside of what we know traditionally to make things work. Because for one thing is that we have the generation now is different. They're different. They're very different. And so they're not going to walk into your door and walk out 30 years later. That's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
They're not looking for that. And
Especially when they're
so,
listening to this podcast. They're like, okay,
right?
I'm trying to, I want more choices and options. Yes.
And so, as leaders, we have to learn to meet them where they're at. We have to learn to adapt. And so, this conference is really about helping you to be future forward. So, when things come, you're not taken by surprise. You don't know what to do. You don't know. So, if you're aspiring leader, if you're a current leader, if you're in a position and you want to look for a promotion, you want to try and negotiate a raise, this is the conference to come to, because we talk about all kinds of stuff. And the networking is amazing. Since this conference started, I can tell you, facilitators have gotten loads and loads of jobs. People who attend have been offered positions from different people that they've met. So it really is something tangible. I want to create something where you don't just come to a conference, collect a bunch of business cards,
Mm-hmm.
and then you throw them away, and then you come back the next year and you collect some more. That's not what I'm after. What I'm after is true, real connections and tangible things for people to go with. So you could meet this one and you could get a job. Facilitators could get work from different companies. And this year we're creating a marketplace. So um we'd create like a marketplace where small businesses can come, and people in the conference could buy from them and different things like that. It really is about creating a space where we can all grow.
Mm.
That is part of the legacy I want to leave, right? Really helping us to grow, develop from every possible angle that we can grow and develop from.
Oh, it sounds like an amazing opportunity. So we will link all of that in the show notes, the conference site. Is there anywhere else you want to direct people to if they want to learn more about you and your work before we go?
The company's website is goblueconsulting.com. And so there you have loads of stuff. This isn't something that I talk about because it tell you to, sometimes you have to work in silence, but I have a book that's due out in 2025. The book is being written by Forbes, and let me tell you, I just really want to say here that opportunities will come that will seem too big, and you won't take it. Because in 2021, Forbes reached out to me. And this is after I have been doing plenty work, right? Plenty inner work. Forbes reached out to me in 2021 and wanted to do a book. And I met with them and then I said no. Because, like, Forbes, me? No. And then last year they reached out again. But this time I was in a totally different space
And you're ready.
and I was ready. So become aware and look for those opportunities. And when they come, don't don't send them on their way, because I think opportunities, they come and then they come back again and they will come back again. But if you keep sending them away, they will just
Yeah.
eventually go away. It's like
Right.
saying, I don't love money, but I want money,
Mm.
right?
Oh my
You
gosh.
treat, you
Yes.
treat money, you treat money like an enemy, but you expect it to come and stay. you know?
Yes. Oh my gosh, Judy, this was amazing. So I will be. Congrats on the book. I can't wait to see that next year, also. But I will link all the show notes and the websites in the show notes for everyone to go check out. But thank you so much again for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I truly enjoyed this conversation because every time people want to talk about money, but I love talking about money, but from not just dollars and cents, but really from the part of it that truly affects our money earning ability.
Yes.